Look, I think consolidation is going to be inevitable. We've got the massive deal now, which is Vodacom, Vuma, Dark Fibre Africa, Herotel, and they're all moving their fibre network assets into a company called Massive. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. I think the Competition Commission has got some conditions of that agreement and the conditions of how that company has to play nicely with the ISPs. I sit on one of the ISP Fibre working groups, Fibre ISP working groups. So I've been quite involved with developing a document with ISPA and the working group members to put together a
Today we are joined by Simon Swanepoel, founder and CEO of internet service provider RocketNet. Simon has come to us to talk about his experiences as founder and CEO of RocketNet. I understand he's turning 7 this year. Welcome to the ITWeb TV, Simon.
Thanks, Admire. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Just to hear from you, Simon, I understand the company, RocketNet, is turning 7 this year. How did you decide to build this company or to start it, and where is it now in the 7 years that we have been operating?
Yeah, so we turned 7 actually this month in May. Initially, I've always been in telecommunications in terms of a career path. I started my career back in about 2006 when I actually, funny enough, started knocking on doors and being a salesman and selling businesses telephone systems, switchboard, PABX systems.
Okay.
So I've always had a telecommunications background. And then we bought a company called DirectTel, and we invested in a company that was actually not really trading at the time, but had these 2 ICASA licenses that we obviously saw quite valuable. And we founded DirectTel in 2011, and that's still the company that we trade out of today. We were then presented with an opportunity. The fibre to the home space was getting it was firing up quite quickly. We had Vumatel breaking ground there in Parkhurst with some of the first fibre to the home connections in the country. And what we did was we kind of, I always had this sort of love and passion. I was servicing businesses. I was really enjoying what we were doing with servicing business customers. And we had this, I've always had this passion to sort of move more into a consumer type of service. There's just so many more things you can do when you're offering consumers a product. So we engaged with Kailami Estates, which is a security or a secure estate in Johannesburg North, and we chatted to them. And what we found there was it was a perfect case for fibre to the home. There was aging copper infrastructure, and that was back, it was 7 years ago from this day today. And so there was aging copper infrastructure, and unfortunately, they also sat on a massive lightning-prone area.
Is it?
So the copper was constantly getting taken out by lightning. So a lot of the people's devices were always, faulty or not working, and the infrastructure was often needing maintenance and support. Not to mention that the mobile networks there, the signal was extremely bad. So we engaged with the estate, we engaged with the board there, and we launched fibre to the home with a fibre network operator partner, which was also one of their very first projects for fibre to the home.
Is it Vuma?
They were Metro Fibre.
Oh, okay.
So myself and Steve Boysons, who's the CEO of Metro Fibre, actually sat down around a table with the board of Kailami Estates, and we devised a plan to try and get these first connections in. And funny enough, I think we signed up over 200 customers on that very first launch day.
Wow.
that we launched. bearing in mind that fiber to the home in 2016 was quite it was quite new, so it was an early adoption process, and then I think we connected one of our first customers. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but it was around in May 7 years ago. So
Okay.
so that was really exciting for us, and it was also that was when the brand RocketNet was born. It was something that I sort of dreamt up. And yeah, that's from there we haven't looked back. We've just grown the base, and that's where we are today. And now we're 7 years later.
From one customer 7 years ago, 7 years on, so how many customers have you signed so far?
We've got look, I can't exactly give the number, but we're sitting at quite a big customer base, and we're growing. We've brought on some really experienced employees into our management team, which I have put a lot of trust into. I really believe that they're going to grow the company and put just as much passion and feel the passion that I have for that business. And yeah, I really think that the company is really focused on customer service. We have really good Hello Peter ratings, a lot of good reviews. And this is coming from review websites and rating websites where customers are normally complaining.
Yes.
So we really are, we have a big emphasis on trying to, make customer service a massive part of our business. And we actually genuinely really care. When we go through a hiring process, I screen and make the final decision on every single employee that comes into the business, because I really want to see how much passion that person actually has. And we always look at hiring on passion first.
Okay.
We want our customers to feel that our employees and our staff are really nurturing that relationship with them. We're really going forward, and we're actually really caring about how the customer feels. And I mean, I can tell you now, if you come into our call center where our agents and our staff sit, where they, we call it the mission control center. We emotionally invested in our customers, and that shows with what we do.
Awesome. How big is your staff complement at the moment?
We've got about 30 staff. Okay. For the most of it, most of our staff are taking care of customers. They're looking after customers. We've got different staff in different divisions, but generally our business is really a customer service orientated type of company.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Yeah, I've just seen that you brought one of the industry heavyweights to join your team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they are coming from Cool Ideas. What sort of experience are they bringing to your team?
I think that's something that I'm actually really excited about at the moment. I've sort of been in our industry, in the ISP space. We actually quite a small industry. So we attend the same networking events, we go to the same functions, and we obviously chat to our rivals all the time. But we actually have quite an ethical relationship with most of our competitors, which is actually it's a great thing to have, because I look at my wife, who's in the law industry, and it almost seems like they're always fighting against each other. So we've had a great relationship with one of the guys who was part of the founding core team of Cool Ideas. And I know one of the founders of Cool Ideas, Paul, quite well. We chat every now and then and have a couple of beers at some of the industry events. But yeah, I mean, when we brought Leroy onto the team, it was quite exciting for me. Obviously, Cool Ideas had been sold off to AfriHost, and I think there was just quite a lot of movement within the business. And Leroy has been a great addition to our management team, and yeah, we're really excited to see him. And he's already done a lot and grown quite a lot within the business.
Great. As you mentioned that the fiber industry is quite like a small industry, like you almost know each other in the industry. You also mentioned that Cool Ideas has been sold off to AfriHost. There have also been some analysts talk about the fiber industry consolidating. What's your take on that? Do you think there will eventually be fewer and fewer fiber players, like with the bigger ones swallowing up the smaller ones, or you think there will continue to be several players in this market?
Yeah, look, I think consolidation is going to be inevitable. We've got the massive deal now, which is Vodacom, Vuma, Dark Fiber Africa, Herotel, and they're all moving their fiber network assets into a company called Massive.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really interesting to watch. I think the Competition Commission has got some conditions of that agreement and the conditions of how that company has to play nicely with the ISPs. I sit on one of the ISP Fibre working groups, Fibre ISP working groups. So I've been quite involved with developing a document with ISPA and the working group members to put together because the regulator ICASA doesn't have much on how fiber operators should treat ISPs,
Okay.
which is quite a critical document and an important document that we're trying to get out there. We've formulated this document as a sort of a guideline to give fiber network operators like Vuma, like Metro Fiber, like OpenServe, sort of a rubber stamp to say, you guys are ethical, you play by the rules, and you've come together. The industry body ISPA has come together, and we've spoken about how we can actually play by the rules nicely, and actually in the end give the consumer a better deal and give the consumer better customer service.
So just to understand a little bit better, I understand, like you were speaking about these fiber network operators, your Vumatels, your OpenServes, your Metro Fiber. So how do you partner with such companies? Do you also dig trenches to lay fiber, or how do you relate with such companies?
So, yeah, good question. We have to be licensed with the regulator ICASA, firstly. That could either be a class license that allows us to operate within a certain geographical area, or we could have an independent license which allows us to operate nationally.
Okay.
We're an internet service provider, so technically we are a virtual service provider that has obtained IP addresses from Afrinic, which is the African regulator for IP address space in the region. And then we engage with the fiber network operators. Let's just say Vuma, OpenServe, and Metro Fiber,
Okay.
correct, as the three sort of major ones within this area, Gauteng. They would then go and dig up the roads or put the fiber in the ground. Once the fiber termination unit has been installed in a house or in a multi-dwelling unit, then we would then go and ship a router to the customer, and they would just connect into the service. And the fiber network operators obviously have the relationship with the internet service provider like RocketNet, like Cool Ideas, like AfriHost.
Okay.
And that relationship then obviously makes for it's a relationship between a wholesaler, which is the fiber network operator, and the distributor, which is basically RocketNet as the ISP. And then we directly interface with the customer.
Is it okay? So if I have a problem, I don't have to call, say, Vumatel, I have to call RocketNet.
Correct. And the way that the fiber operators have positioned it, let's say Vuma or OpenServe, you can't actually call directly. You would have to log the ticket or log the incident with RocketNet. And then we would use our relationship and our, obviously, the agreements and contracts that we have with the fiber network operators to make sure that we can deliver on faults, on maintenance, or anything else that maybe needs to happen. But there's a lot with regards to that actually happens, and I need to go down this road a little bit with you. Now that we're on the conversation of faults and logging issues and tickets, we find there's a lot of issues that normally happens within the customer's home. And Wi-Fi being, let me just call it Satan.
Yeah.
in our sort of workflow process, and et cetera, a lot of customers think Wi-Fi is fiber. So when a lot of our team goes and engages with customers, they have this impression that the Wi-Fi connection is fiber. And it's not really. I mean, Wi-Fi is literally, you have the fiber connection that comes into your home. RocketNet then puts a router down. And then, or the customer decides they're going to put their own Wi-Fi router down.
Okay.
And I think the most interesting part of it is that Wi-Fi, what people don't understand is Wi-Fi is not just available everywhere. Wi-Fi is essentially light waves that are moving. So if you, for example, take a torch and shine it into your mouth and you can see a little bit of, you can see a little bit of light coming through your cheek or whatever, that's the same idea of putting a Wi-Fi router on this wall here, right against the wall. The signal is going to obviously diminish if you go to the other side, whereas if you're in this room, the light is quite clean. So we often ask customers to make sure that that their Wi-Fi network is good enough.
Thanks, Simon. If you can just maybe share some more details about the application that RocketNet recently launched. What does it do and how does it benefit clients like myself?
Yeah, so I mean, we're the only ISP in the country to have developed a app that can self-diagnose someone's problems within the home, right? So the app's on the Google Play Store and on the Apple Store and the Huawei Store, and it's called RocketNet Probe. And essentially what it does is you put your phone, you log into the app, it gives you a special customer experience key, which you would then give to the support agent. And this application is not, it's driven by a lot of cloud-based compute power in the back end. It's a self-diagnosing app, which is extremely intelligent, and it's got a lot of AI built into the back end. And what you do is you take your phone, you'd put it next to your Wi-Fi router at home, and you'd click on the button to say start scan. Now, what this then does is it starts looking at your Wi-Fi network, and it starts doing a lot of different scans. It does ping tests to Google, Twitter, etc. It looks at all the major different cloud networks, and it can actually tell you whether the problem that you're having is on your fiber line, so whether the actual fiber line has got a degradation of service, or whether it's maybe perhaps that you are connected to a Wi-Fi extender that's sitting in your garage, and you're not actually connected to the Wi-Fi router that's connected directly by a cable to your main fiber box. And this is incredibly useful for customers because it really takes the guesswork out of everything. I don't know if you remember the days where you had the old school in a business, you had that old school IT department, and whenever you phone them and say, hey, my computer's hanging or frozen or something's wrong, they used to say, oh, just reboot it.
Yes.
And I think that's the typical internet service provider, call center agent's role. The first thing they do is say, please reboot your router.
Yes.
But it's literally a thumbsuck. You don't actually really know what's going on. So the RocketNet Probe app really does allow for customers to self-diagnose, and it gives them a lot of self-help functions. I think we're moving into a world here where self-help is key, and the more sort of AI, I know that we were mentioning chatbot GPT earlier and the likes of that, but the more sort of AI stuff that we can use to try and self-diagnose and for people to self-help themselves to be able to, to also reduce frustration. With diagnosing Wi-Fi issues is very helpful.
Okay, speaking of Wi-Fi issues, load shedding is a challenge that we are all grappling with at the moment. Sometimes stage 6 load shedding. How is it affecting the fiber business as a whole, and what measures are you putting in place to try to make sure that perhaps your clients remain connected during these periods?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously load shedding has been quite challenging for many South Africans. It's challenging for the fiber network operators. It's challenging for ISPs. I think theft is a major thing. So a lot of the fiber network operators have battery backup. We have, including the mobile operators.
Yes.
We have battery backup. The fiber operators have battery backup. But we see a lot of theft in that space. So, for example, if you're living in Rivonia and the major pop where all the fiber terminates, one of the batteries is stolen, or the batteries are stolen, you will have a large number of thousands of customers not being able to access services. So RocketNet have partnered with a company called Vizio. You might have heard the brand. And what we've actually created is we've created a rental for customers to be able to rent UPSs that plug in and connect to the fiber routers, to the actual Wi-Fi routers in the home. And that can power a router for up to 12 hours. Okay. So we've obviously addressed that solution, and we allow any customer to request a UPS from us, and we'll just charge them a rental per month. And that that Wi-Fi UPS can actually be replaced every couple of years. So they're always getting, the best in they're getting the best out of the batteries. The batteries aren't degrading, and that's something that we believe, it would make internet more accessible to customers during the load shedding periods. Because as you know, you can have no lights in your house and you're absolutely fine with that. As long as your phone is working and your laptop can connect to the internet, I think most people are happy. Put Netflix on your phone while there's load shedding or whatever the case is. But I think, we're finding that, fiber, water, and electricity, these are the three commodities in the world right now, and those are your basic needs that people need. I think even more so much the internet. People would rather be without electricity and water than not have the internet connection. It's a very emotional attachment that people have,
Exactly.
not to mention how emotionally attached people are to their cell phones.
Yeah, speaking of the growth of the fiber market in the South African, we saw like a huge upsurge in the adoption of fiber since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant lockdowns, with more people working from home, doing their schoolwork from home. Have you also seen like an increase in business during this time, and has that been sustained, or you actually saw a slowdown in that adoption when the lockdown was removed, for example?
Yeah, so I think we saw a massive growth in an uptake of subscribers during COVID-19. Almost maybe double what we were getting in terms of orders monthly. Then, when the lockdowns were eased and people started going back to work, we did see sort of a reduction in the orders that were coming through. But funny enough, load shedding, we've actually seen with the new, load shedding onset in South Africa, we've seen that there is quite a number of people now coming onto fiber. And I think that's just purely from a perspective that, we have battery theft or backup power theft in the country. So the mobile network towers are sometimes left, without power, which means they can't operate. Mobile network towers also require quite a large amount of power to operate. And if people are normally, connecting to fiber in their homes through Wi-Fi routers and there's no power or no backup power to power their routers, a lot of people are jumping onto technologies like 5G, 4G through the mobile network operators. What that does then is it's congesting the network. Okay. So I would definitely sort of ask people to please rather try and sign up with fiber. I've been quite vocal in this space in terms of a couple of op-eds and in our blog posts that I've written, is to basically say to people, a mobile network is really there for, mobility, hence the name mobile. We're using mobile data for when we drive to work, things like Google Maps, Waze, sitting at a restaurant maybe, not having Wi-Fi there, being able to quickly look at something on your phone. But when you're in your home, the most cost-effective and the most efficient solution that you can have is by far fiber. So, I know there's massive talks about 5G and the vendors and the mobile operators are all pushing 5G and saying this is the best and fastest technology. But still, the most reliable, you can't get something quicker than light, And that's why I'm quite a big proponent for pushing for that.
I've also like fiber because of at home I'm connected to fiber, and here at work I also connect to the Wi-Fi here. So now these days I only realize that I have not bought mobile data after driving. Maybe somewhere that's when you realize that, oh, I need to buy like mobile data. That's how I'm so used to that sort of connectivity. So what you say maybe will be the biggest advantages of having like fiber over like next gen technologies like your 5G, as you just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, the massive advantage on fiber is you're not, you're not really getting a lot of congestion. Fiber is a lot quicker. It runs at the speed of light. Most of the fiber network operators have provisioned enough capacity for all those lines to run. The data packets are coming in and out of the network a lot quicker, so you're pulling down data much faster, which means that your usage on the network is not as much. And I mean, not getting into the very technicalities about how mobile cells work and how mobile towers work, but you've really got to get, the more people, as you know, if you've ever been to a soccer game or a big concert and you're trying to get onto that mobile network,
Yes.
the more people that are on that tower, taxing that resource, the slower your speed is going to be, the worse your experience will be. And that's what I think a lot of people are seeing during load shedding. They're seeing a lot of people now streaming Netflix, and the tower just falls over because it cannot handle that congestion. Remember, mobile, wireless, the way a wireless data communicates is almost like a two-way radio. So it sends the data packet, whichever one, it says, listen, I want to look at this Netflix show, and then the Netflix show starts to come down.
Okay.
So and it happens in milliseconds, and it happens very, very quickly. But if you have a lot of people all talking to the same tower, those towers do get very congested. And I just don't think the mobile network operators have enough capacity to provide for that kind of congestion. And there's also economies of scale with regards to that, because, there is quite a lot of money in that. Then I suppose they could argue the spectrum issue, and environmental impact studies and whatever. With 5G, you're supposed to bring the cell phone tower quite close, to the consumer. So to get that true 5G experience, you're looking at putting 5G on light poles, for example, and bring, not just have one tower that can service 5-kilometer radius or a 2-kilometer radius. You're looking at many towers sparsely populated all over the area, and that you require obviously government to get involved and give proper way leaves, and all the stuff to kind of like move on quite quickly.
Great stuff. There's also been talk that the fiber operators are just mostly servicing the affluent areas. To take you back, you spoke about Kailami Estate, but they are not actually going also to the townships, which leaves the problem of the digital divide continuously bothering us here in South Africa. Is RocketNet in any way also doing something to connect, the townships or the rural areas with fiber connectivity?
So we are in plans of looking at that at the moment. I know that Vumatel has, for example, let's say Mitchell's Plain, which is a lower income area. But I think you're more referring to rural areas, out maybe in the Eastern Cape, places where economically it just wouldn't make sense, for fiber to be ubiquitous in those certain areas. And I think I wrote something the other day, or I commented on something where I said that, to really get that moving, we need to have participation from government. We need to have participation from the fiber network operators, the guys that are actually digging the fiber and putting it into the ground, and then the ISPs like us. And we need to work together. We need to drop. We need to look at. I mean, we've been toying with ideas, not official, but we've been toying with ideas, for example, of our higher income fiber subscribers contributing to a portion, like KFC has this hope, and all these guys have these charities where you can contribute And we're actually looking at, if you take our subscribers and you ask every subscriber of ours to give 10 Rand a month towards a rural community, how much better would that, it would just, you're paying it forward. And I think the important thing is to really, it makes me excited because I want to be excited about South Africa. I want to grow South Africa. And the only way that we're going to grow South Africa is to get fiber out into these rural places. It's going to stimulate education.
Yes.
There's, on a mobile data plan, mobile data is so expensive for the average South African still to stream educational services or just to utilize it. It is. So I think it is a big passion of mine to put internet into the hands of every South African, and I really hope that we can partner with government and FNO to try and get that ball rolling.
So what's stopping that from happening? In as much as it sounds like a noble cause for government, FNOs, and ISPs to come together to connect like underserviced areas, what is stopping that from happening from your own point of view?
Look, from our point of view, I think it's every business, most businesses in the private sector have shareholders. The primary goal of that business is to make a profit. And I think it's just really people need, I think we need to get the fiber into the higher income areas so that we can get it into the hands of the lower income areas. And I think, the obstacle there would just be building and developing our fiber and make it more ubiquitous. And I think government really does need to be involved. So I really do think government is one of the biggest obstacles. I think if they had better plans, better rollout plans, and we could do things quicker, faster, easier, maybe subsidize quite a bit of that. For example, if the government said, "Cool, we're gonna subsidize trenching the side of the road, so we will give you." Say from Durban to East London, we're going to subsidize the digging up of the roads there, and we'll put proper conduit piping in, and then we invite all the different operators to then just come and put their fiber down. The civil construction component of fiber is one of the biggest costs, and it's one of the biggest probably hindrances for a lot of the fiber network operators to go and put it in there.
And I think it will also be good in terms of employment creation as well.
I agree with you 100%, yeah. So I think, to be honest with you, I definitely do think it looks, from my perspective, government needs to be really more involved in rolling out these networks and making it more accessible and more collaborative.
What plans do you have to actually grow your business further? I know you've got some ambitions to, take your business, further than what we have at the moment. If you can just share with us the plans that we have or the strategies that we've put in place to grow your business.
Yeah, so growth in the ISP game. I think we've got over 100 internet service providers in the country, and like you said earlier, consolidation is one of them. We are actively looking for investment as well to raise capital to grow the business. I think organic growth has slowed down a lot. Okay. Growth through consolidation and acquiring other companies, other ISPs will definitely be one of our strategies moving forward. And then just making sure that we keep our customer service on track. We are definitely always passionate about making sure that customers know who we are, and a lot of our customers actually sign up with us because someone told them what great service RocketNet gives.
Okay.
So we have a huge amount of word of mouth customers, but I think growth strategies that we're deploying at the moment, raising capital, getting investment, and also looking at trying to grow through acquisitions in the industry. Awesome. And possibly even mergers.
Awesome. Just lastly, just crossed my mind that maybe someone is watching this podcast. They're thinking, "Oh, I also want to start my own ISP like Simon did." How easy is it for someone to start an ISP? What kind of capital do they need, or is it easy? What advice would you give someone who wants to start in?
I would say don't do it. There's a lot of other things that are a lot easier to do. But I mean, yeah, I think if you're really passionate about the industry, if you're really passionate about telecommunications, and if you're really, really, really passionate about customer service, I would say, you know, it's a very cash-intensive business, so you need quite a lot of capital to start up a business like this. You're funding a lot of free routers, free installations, free activations, all up front, where you only see, you know, you only see that return quite a far way down the line. So, you know, you really got to have determination. I think you've got to think big. You can't just sign up 100, 200 customers and think that that's it. You know, this game is about volume. Okay. So I think big pockets, big balls, and a lot of guts and a massive amount of passion for customer service will definitely get you there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Simon. It has been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks a lot, Admire. Cool, man.
Awesome.